Welcome back to the Nail Source podcast. I'm Amy Masters, nail tech, educator, and mentor with over 30 years in the nail industry. This podcast is for nail professionals who want to simplify their work, build real confidence in your business and in self, and create a career that's profitable, sustainable, and aligned with your life. I know I share a lot about confidence because confidence can be the make it or break it in our long-term success. Our confidence isn't always broken from the clients, it's from lifting. That's why I talk so much about lifting. I have seen the best nail techs, the most beautiful nail artists break their confidence because of lifting. I find that lifting isn't it about the adhesion, it's actually emotional. It's that quiet second guessing that we get that we replay about the appointment in our head over and over again, wondering if it was our prep, it was the product, the client, their lifestyle, their hormones, their job, or just something that we just can't see or understand. And what hurts the most is when a very good nail tech, a skilled tech, starts believing that the problem is them. I've watched many nail techs lose their confidence. Again, not because of their talent, not because they didn't have the clientele, it was because they were fighting systems that didn't support real world nails. And I've been there. Somewhere early in our education, most of us learned if it lifts, it's our fault. I completely disagree. I know that prep matters, skill matters, and education matters. But that belief is just too simple for something that's actually very complex. Because nails are not created equal. They don't all grow the same, they don't all respond the same, and they don't all move the same. And movement, now that's where everything starts to make sense to me. I think one of the biggest gaps we have in the nail education is that we're taught how nails look, but not how they behave. Now, some nail plates are very firm, some are average, and some are extremely flexible. Now, flexible nails, they'll bend under pressure. They flex when you're gripping, typing, cleaning. And they absorb impact differently. And that flexibility isn't always a weakness, it's just the biology of it. But when you put a rigid system on top of a flexible nail, something has to give. And usually it's not the product. Now, harder enhancements like acrylic and hard gel, those are rigid overlays. Now, these systems, they are strong. They are incredible tools. They're designed to hold structure, support the strength, and stay firm. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. The issue is when a rigid system is placed on a nail that moves a lot. And when the nail flexes, but the product doesn't, the stress doesn't usually disappear. It transfers on the nail. And it usually shows up in the adhesion layer, like on the free edge or the apex over time. That's when lifting happens. It's not because your prep is wrong, but because the system and the nails aren't speaking the same language. I believe that's why some clients are so confusing. They leave with the flawless set, they wear it beautifully for like a week or two, and then they come back with lifting or just a few nails left on. Often the same nails, often the dominant hand. Now, I call this information, and it speaks to us. And once you learn the pattern, you know how to stop chasing those fixes because it just doesn't match the problem. Now, this is where the softer builder gels and flexible systems come in. A flexible system will move with the nail rather than resisting it. It absorbs some of that movement, which reduces the stress at the adhesion point. And for clients with a very flexible nails, whether it's genetics, hormonal, autoimmune, connective tissue related, or just how their nails are, flexibility can outperform the strength. That is why stronger isn't always better, and adding a more rigid products doesn't always stop the movement. It actually increases the stress. Now, builder gels were originally created for like a short natural nail. It's thicker than gel polish and it can add support. It creates a clean, natural look, and it wasn't meant to be for a long length like a rigid system is. That trend kind of came later. Now, a hard gel, on the other hand, is meant for structure, length, durability on the nails. that can support it, but neither one of them are superior. They each have their own place. They're a tool. And an experienced nail tech doesn't choose which tool based on trends. They choose them based on the nail behavior. Now, I created the genre system to be right in the middle. It's firm, but it's flexible. Now, I do want you to check with Doug Schoon's site. There are things like connective tissue disorders, autoimmune conditions, hormone fluctuations that are often found with a more flexible nail. I have this myself. That doesn't mean that we can't wear the nails, and it doesn't mean that rigid systems will never work, but it does mean that the expectations, the length, the maintenance, the product choice, that matters a little bit more. And these clients often do better with a shorter or medium length, a more flexible system, consistent maintenance. And when we understand this, something powerful happens. We stop blaming ourselves. The clients start to trust in us, the retention holds, and your confidence will build. For years, I felt like I was playing Goldilocks with nail systems. I felt like, oh, this one is too hard. This one is too soft. The problem is that they all looked beautiful, but at the cost of structure and longevity. And then there were systems that worked sometimes, depending on the client, depending on the season, depending on how long they went between their fill, depending on everything lined up perfectly. And that's exhausting to try to figure that out. I didn't want a system that I would hope would work. I wanted one I could trust. Now, genre wasn't created because I felt like we needed another product line. It was a system that started in the transition of products changing. For instance, we started getting a gel top coat that would adhere to the acrylic. We started sprinkling glitter and other products into that gel top coat to create other types of nails. And it resulted in a very predictable result. It had fewer steps, less filing, better retention, and highly profitable for the nail tech. And a system that worked across different nail types, not just ideal ones. Now, genre became that just right balance. It wasn't too hard and it's not too soft. It's supportive, adaptable, and reliable. It's a hybrid gel system that works with the natural nail instead of fighting it. One thing I've learned after decades in the industry is that complex doesn't equal better nails. In fact, most techs don't need more steps. They need a clearer structure and a better understanding. And genre was designed to apply easily, self-level beautifully, require a little to no finish filing, and maintain in 3+ week retention. It's also HEMA-free, and because of nail health and long-term wear, it should go hand in hand, not be a trade-off. Here's what I really care about: the confidence. Our confidence changes how you show up. It changes how you consult. It changes how you price your services. It changes how you speak to your clients. And when you trust your system, you stop apologizing for things that are not your fault. And you start working calmer, cleaner, more intentionally. And that's what I want for techs. Not just better nails, but a better experience. In our industry, there's a lot of single systems, and some of them can work nice for majority of the clients. But if that were true, lifting wouldn't still be the most common conversation that we have. Now, natural nails vary more than what we were ever taught. The flexibility, their thickness, the oil production, their lifestyle, the medications, just the daily wear patterns. Yet for a long time, techs were expected to apply this one rigid system and assume that the problem is the technique if it didn't hold. That's not fair and that's not accurate. And over the years, product systems have evolved, they have changed, and we see now more than ever the longevity and the retention that products can hold. One thing I didn't really talk about is that sometimes over prep is often the cause of lifting. Now, this one surprises a lot of techs. Sometimes lifting isn't the cause from not enough prep. It's because you've done too much. You've overfiled the natural nail. You've over dehydrated. You're layering too many no lift promise products. And trying to make them stick, we sometimes compromise the natural nail's integrity, and the adhesion suffers the long term. Now, retention is not about aggression, it's about balance. Another big issue I see is stacking products. Instead of understanding them, we do a pH bond on top of a primer on top of a bonder, a base on top of another base, multiple layers, just in case. More products, however, don't equal better retention, because the opposite can happen as well. You start getting layers upon layers upon layers that aren't compatible. They're not applied in the right order, and therefore the bond breaks immediately. And then what happens is you have so many layers that it's created such a thicker nail that has so much flexibility to it that the nail will separate from it and actually create some other lifting issues. And to me, lifting is feedback. And when you learn to listen to it instead of fighting it, your confidence changes. You stop second guessing every set. You stop switching products, and you stop taking retention so personally. You start making intentional decision, and that's the biggest difference between guessing and your expertise. Now, if you want to learn more about genre systems, it's available through the nailsource.store. I'm always happy to share details, when it feels aligned. But more than anything, I hope this episode reminds you that confidence is built, and it's not built overnight. It's built through trust, understanding, and support. And you deserve all of those. Now, thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about your work. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and share it with another nail tech who could use a little encouragement. And remember, beauty we create isn't just on the nails. It's in the confidence that we build. Because confidence grows when understanding has clarity. Until next time, keep simplifying, keep learning, and keep trusting your expertise.